Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Live. We have a piece of 4¼ by 7½ or 7¼ inch semi-gloss cardstock. I have pre-stamped all my imagery on here in dye-based inks, and we're going to color it with dye-based inks, and then we'll do some additional little flourishes on it and see how that goes. I pre-stamped this all out because it was really quite juicy, and I needed to really heat this up. I don't know if you can tell, but it's really quite bowed now after all that heating. There was a lot of wet ink on here, and I just didn't want to have to deal with it in a live situation, with running a noisy heat gun over that for a prolonged period of time. Okay, so I thought we'd have some fun here. In my last video, I was talking about these cosmetic sponges and how, just in general, sponges work pretty good in terms of being a good wet media applicator, because sponges are designed to absorb, right? So I thought I would give this a try. I haven't done this for a really long time. I've usually had other methods of ink application that, I don't know, that I do, that I like, but I don't know. These are the types of things that we used to use a little bit more often before a lot of other types of tools came along. I don't know, I didn't use paper towels back when, but I could have all along. But it was things like these sponges that people were using. A lot of people didn't like the squared off area on these. Some people would trim those off and whatnot, but I use these in a pretty thick saturation, so it really doesn't matter to me if they have these squared off areas like that. Now, if you notice, I have used some re-inker ink on here. This is going to be a blue tone scene. And I've used a really light, just the lightest light blue that I happen to have. Okay, if something like this is the lightest blue that you happen to have, maybe you don't use a re-inker ink because it's going to be really super strong. So if you have a re-inker ink, use that one first, okay? And then saturate your applicator. And then what you do is you can go into your piece like this, and you just kind of use this. It's like a little brush, okay? And we'll go into this here. And I don't know, to me it's like using like a wide tip marker or something like that, okay? You can use it in all kinds of different applications or touches, You can dab, you can streak, you can do both. You can do something very, I don't know, kind of almost maybe calligraphic with this. Okay, now some of this looks like it's still a little bit moist, okay? It's one of the things about using stamping over imagery that you just stamped out. So over these areas like this, what I'll do is I'll dab like this up and down as opposed to streaking like that, because that can drag, potentially, some of that wet ink out, okay? This is working pretty good. Be able to get right up to this moon here with this edge, like this straight edge, without going into the moon. I want some in the moon too, but I don't know, it's controlling it pretty good. And because this is a very absorbent type of material, there's a lot of ink in here it's like a charged up applicator. That being said, if you want to leave some areas kind of light, be aware that you have a lot of ink in here, so it'll transfer that ink over accordingly. So watch your light areas, or white areas in this case, since we're working on a white piece of paper. If you want some of those, for example, these clouds to remain nice and light, then don't go over them too much, okay? Now, like I said, this is a very light blue here, so it's not going to get like really dark. It'll get as dark as, that ink is in its full saturation, okay? All right, so that is pretty much done right there. Okay. There's a lot of ink in there. It's putting some of this moon ink back into solution right there. It's just so juicy wet. Hello, Linda. How are you? Long time no see. All right, let's move up to our next tone, which is another pretty light blue. It's like a salvia blue, and it's very, very light in tone. Let's see. I'm going to get some of this. I'm going to sop up some of this ink that's kind of bleeding right there. See how I just kind of wiped it off like that? It'll probably still keep running though, so I just need to be aware of that. Okay, like I said, I haven't used these sponge types of applications in a while, so it's just a lot juicier. Okay, but that's good though because it will blend. It'll be easy to blend our other colors on top of such a juicy, moist surface like this. And it's almost too moist right now. So I am going to heat set a little bit, but not so much. Okay, that's the wettest surface I've ever seen in my life. I guess I used too much, okay? I haven't used a sponge like this in like years. So it's like, wow, that is really, really wet. And see that? This is semi-gloss cardstock. You know, it looks like this. So you can see just how shiny wet it is right there with that first base layer of color. Okay, let's move on to a darker tone. You only use if you're going to apply like that base coat of color, you only use like the first color in a reinker form, okay? Now, if all you have is reinkers, then you can just put like a small drop of it on there or something like that. All right, this is Memento Bahama Blue. Bahama Blue isn't very dark. It's the same. That's the color that I stamped these clouds in. Hello, Bonnie. We miss you, Lindo, like when you're traveling and we're doing the live streams. It's like, where's Linda? Has anyone seen her? I think you saw those comments. All right, that is that with the Bahama Blue. It's, like I said, it's not that dark. Boy, let's see. I just re-inked this Prussian blue. I found my Prussian blue re-inker, and I inked up with that. That's what I stamped out the moon in. I did a little bit of a mix, and then these footprints in the Prussian blue. So let me just go like a couple taps like that. See, like that, how dark it is? It is really, really dark. All right, let's give it a try here. So, ooh, that is really, really dark. Okay, wiping off a little bit more. So when you're working with something really dark like that, what you do is you just stay on the edge a little bit longer before you take it into your scene, okay? What it does is some of the ink comes off of it, so it isn't quite so moist, so it's not transferring as much liquid and darkness onto your piece at any given time. So you want the process to be a little bit more gradual and controlled, okay? So a lot of ink to begin with, but when you get into your dark colors, you want less ink. Look how dark that is, boy. That Prussian blue is also it penetrates surfaces really, really fast. Just the viscosity or something like that. And see, this page, even though I heat set, it's still fairly moist. So if I go like that, you see that edge right there? You can just see, you kind of just wipe it in like that, and it's completely blended in. And that's what people are kind of missing sometimes when um, they say, "Oh my God, that's like I have a hard time blending things." It's because it's not moist. You're blending kind of, wet ink onto a very dry surface, so it grabs it so much faster. So you can't, it's like if I do this right here, that is like really set, okay? But if I do that right here, see that real pointy edge? It just blends right in. So you can really control it like that. All right, that is that. All right, I'm gonna go in and fine tune this too. So I was thinking, well, one of the things about the sponge is if I don't get it, from kind of the absence of practice with it for years here, I always use my colored pencils in here anyway, and that really kind of helps to blend things a lot more. Okay, let's see here. I think I'm going to add in some darker, ooh, that looks really, really dark. I'm going to add in some darker impressions with my cloud in here too, just to get a little bit more variation. Or a lot more variation, I should say. So I'm just making this darker like this. It's supposed to be some kind of interesting lunar event. When is it? Tomorrow and the next day or something like that? I think an eclipse or something. See that right in there, how it wasn't blended? Like, here, let's just do this on purpose, like this. Okay, like that. Not a great technique, right? So I'm just taking this, and I can just blend that right in. And again, this is not like a glossy cardstock that's super sealed off. Semi-gloss cardstocks are fairly absorbent, but you can just go in and easily blend that in or out or whatever. Okay, we lost a ton of visual interest up top with the kind of the eradication of form up there. So, am I ready to do this right here? Let's heat this up a little bit more, because I know that if I stamp this cloud in that moist area like that, it'll give me a pretty crisp impression. But then when it sets for a little bit, if I don't heat set at that point in time, the ink will kind of keep running a little bit over the next, I don't know, maybe a couple hours even. So let's go ahead and heat set that a little bit. I think I just saw some smoke. It was either smoke or steam. Don't light a fire in your studios. Whatever the card is, it wouldn't be worth it. Okay, wiping off the top portion of this right up here. This is a really dark ink, okay? So this is a lighter blue out here. It's darker out here, so you can stamp a darker impression with your same image now. You can do this like with hills or mountains or anything like that going off into the distance. You do a darker one up close, lighter one, farther away. I haven't really done like a dark one up close, a light one in the middle, and the dark one again, which, you probably could do, and that would also kind of push a lot of depth, which might be kind of interesting. Hello, Sheila. How are you? I'm waiting for a stamp for you, Sheila. My rubber guys, I think he wasn't quite sure if he was heading down this way or not and coming through town, so he might be dropping off my order to me. Right, actually, I go and meet him at the freeway, around the freeway. I think it was like the curvilinear walkway or something like that. I don't know, did someone use that recently? Like, I got a couple orders for that recently. But if I get that, I should be able to get your order out tomorrow. All right, I got to get that Prussian blue off of this because I know that the next time I use this stamp, a lot of times I don't clean my stamps, but the next time I'm going to use this like in a really light blue ink or something like that, and I'm going to stamp it out and it's going to be like completely dark because I used the Prussian blue on it, you know, the last time I used it. All right, let's see. We don't know how, yeah, Bonnie, I don't know. I don't know anyone that knows Bill either. You know, us stampers or anything like that. But I don't think people, you know, have his like private number or something. Yeah, that's a good question though. I haven't used those sponges in a long time. I have a ton of them. Time to bust those out, Linda. I don't know. It gave a, you know, pretty fast application. All right, this is like the wettest scene in the history of time here. Don't use quite as much re-inker ink for your base layer ink as I did on this one. Especially with these sponges. I don't know, maybe the sponges work better than the paper towel, you know. Boy, that got, you know, whatever, juicy. Okay. Colored pencils, okay. I just figured, I mean, I use these anyways, and that's why I did it on the semi-gloss cardstock so I can use some colored pencils, okay? But I like to do some refinements with this. I'm not going to do, like, you know, like really tight areas with this, but I guess you could. It would be a much kind of softer look, I guess. But, yeah. Let's see. When I paint... Oh, you paint with those sponges, huh, Bonnie? They work pretty good for color applications. Those were the first time... those are the first... kind of color or dye-based ink application examples that I saw. The first time I saw, you know, dye-based ink color, you know, color applications with something, it was with the wedge style of cosmetic sponge. It was this one guy that was working for a Stamp of the Hand company, which is a company that I used to work for. And he worked sometimes in their retail store mall, or whatever, kiosk or something. And I guess when he was sitting around, he, you know, I don't know, he had some of those sponges around and he tried it out. And he showed me and I was like, oh, wow, yeah, that looks great, you know. His name was Victor. Now, I had been demonstrating my stamps, and I had been using this. I think I was using this stamp called Field of Sky, which is the oh, you know, the precursor to the tonal applicator. And we weren't, remember, this is that time before dye-based ink pads, raised dye-based ink pads. So on these sponges like this, he was applying with your Marvy markers on there. Just taking the tip and just drawing it on there, this, and then applying it like that, okay? No re-inkers or anything like that in those days either, because there weren't, this raised dye-based pads. So, anything for the card, as far as effort goes, right? Where does everyone get their semi-gloss paper? Well, I have this big thing that came from this place called Appleton Papers, but I got it at um, Kelly Paper. Yeah, I got all my paper at Kelly Paper back when, Sheila. But I say that because Sheila's got one. If she ever goes to around at Portland. But the Hamilco glossy paper is excellent. I find that for me, with any kind of semi-gloss paper, any brand, I can't tell any difference at all between all of them. They go by the name of dull, satin, and semi-gloss. I think they're referring to the same things. It just depends on what manufacturer is selling them. By the way, I'm kind of working on shadows now with these darker tones like this. So I'm just going in there and just kind of refining it or deepening the shadow. See that right there? I just kind of made that shadow a little bit darker, but it's transitioning up here into lighter shades. I'm going to kind of create these little shadows coming from these. So you can see where I'm starting to go like this with the darker tones, like right in here. But yeah, but the Hamilco glossy cardstock on Amazon, it's to me it's just as good as any other. In the way that I use the paper, you know, usually multimedia, a lot of layers of media on it. But to me, it's just the Hamilco glossy. It's like there is like no way that it's glossy. It's it's like far from it. But an excellent, semi-gloss. Okay, let's see. Boy, this ink and surface is still pretty juicy here and wet. I'm like doing this and I'm like digging into ink in here. Now this area in here is going to get kind of like a treatment of a lot of acrylic ink and pigment ink too. So I made it a little bit too dark in there. And I know when I stamped all my images out too, it's like, it's a little bit too dark. But we have white, to go back in there with. Okay, let's go to black here. It's so juicy. I'm wondering, maybe I should use some of my black watercolor pencil. It's kind of like adding it into a wet surface, right? Why not? It looks like it's working pretty good. Oh, so what I was saying is the semi-glosses to me are all the same. Um, the the glossy though, to me, from different brands. I tried three different brands at I've probably tried five different brands or so over the years. But one time I got all the different brands that Kelly Paper had, and they were all really quite distinctively different from one another. In terms of probably not if you were just like stamping on them and just leaving it like that or doing colored pencil, but when you're started doing different layering on there with the dye-based inks, it really took the inks quite a bit differently. Some of them applied easier, meaning I think the paper was probably less coated, so it was more porous, okay? And one of them, it kind of, everything went on there pretty good, but it kind of started separating a little bit. So there was all these kind of like this circular patterns in the card on the surface after it dried, while those whatever layers were still kind of moist and they're doing whatever they did, there was this weird kind of patterning that took place. I mean, I thought it looked pretty good, but to me, the glossy, the just the standard chrome coat looked, probably the best, worked the best. I have the test on here on YouTube, on one of the, I don't know, early lessons or videos. This is so moist, it's almost looking like watercolor in some of these areas. What paper is she using though, Linda? And I don't know if what's that place out of Chicago? The paper something. Oh no, wait. Okay, I suddenly forgot the name of that place. But Marco's Papers, yeah, Marco's Papers has a bunch of different stuff too. But again, I don't know what papers they're repackaging. It's probably the stuff like Nina's or something like that, in terms of the semi glosses. That's always been a really big, popular brand. I have a feeling though that with a lot of those types of papers, like that Nina one, I think it just kind of got out there that that's a good paper. I can't imagine people are doing a bunch of like testing, like getting 10 different papers and testing them all out and seeing them, with multimedia. I think it just like worked and it just became kind of like a consensus type of thing, in the industry. All right, let's see here. Going into the black again, I'm able to apply a little bit easier because of the getting that moisture out of there. So my concept here with this little kid is that when we were little kids, yeah, not like 5 or something like that, but when we were like 10, before, yeah, I'm sure it was before even middle school, 6th grade. We used to go out like in these areas near our house all the time, and whatever. If it's summertime, we used to get home sometimes like after after dark, It probably before dinner, I'm guessing, but we'd be out all day, kind of, doing stuff. We'd take our BB guns out and stuff like that. Out having fun. So this kid's got his, sled. He's, whatever. He had his first opportunity to go out with his sled. So he's taking it out and he's going home after. It was like no big deal. I don't think our parents were worried. We did it all the time. They might have worried a little bit more, but my friends and I, there was like a group of kids in our street. They were all kind of older, 5, 7 years older, something like that. And I don't know, it just happened to work out that all of my friends were like the youngest siblings of all these families on our block. So I think, by the time whatever the rules and everything got softened, by the time it, got to us, whatever, our generation, there on the block. It was stuff like BB guns, and then it became like BMX, dirt bikes and things like that, and going out and riding all day or whatever into the night, I guess. All right, so then I think that is good with the colored pencil, maybe. Let me do a little bit with black up here. I'm gonna make this a little bit darker up here. This is still, it's dark, but to me, I want it a little bit darker. So let's give it a shot here. Hello, Carrie, how are you? Good to see you. Thanks for jumping on, checking this out here. I just like using my pencils on it, yeah. I do love, I wasn't like, a big, colored pencil user for many, many years, but then it was like, I don't know what got me used. I don't know what got me to start using it. Was, man, it's like, it's in, it was enough for me to stop using like glossy all the time, because you just can't use the colored pencils with glossy at all. Okay, I thought that was black. This is the Prussian blue here, but I thought, looks a little bit richer with that Prussian blue. Okay, let's go in with a little bit of the black now. Ooh, that is quite a bit darker. But the color that you stamp at your darkest imagery in, I do find that, not in every case, but in most of them, I find that if you finish it off on the edges around with whatever color it be. Now, I mean, in some instances like this, you can stamp in, darker blues or something like that, and that would be the darkest thing. In that case, I wouldn't finish off the perimeter with black. And you're saying, well, when wouldn't you use like a, black for your imagery? Well, if I was doing something like a real kind of like morning fog or something like that on a lake or something like that, when everything is just completely diffused and really light and foggy, my darkest tones might be, like a 50% whatever, gray or blue or something like that. And I probably I wouldn't go into too dark of a tone in that case around on the border, because it might get a little bit too heavy looking. I'm going a little bit darker probably than I normally would in some instances, but I'm going to do some splatter painting on here. So I want those splatters to show up, over the whole thing pretty decently. And the darker I go, the more contrast with that white splatter there will be in there. Okay. All right. So let's start refining this. It's a little bit, it's okay right now, but it's a little bit clunky in terms of you know, the color applications and everything like that. In here, it was so moist, I started putting some of that. It's a little bit gray in there. So we'll start getting some of that muddled type of look. Not out of there, but I'll try to distract you from it, from it being so obvious and apparent. I used the chrome paper I got from a few months back. Oh, I tried all my different pencils, and they just work so. So I wanted to try the semi-gloss. Okay, got it. Oh, you got another retreat coming up, huh? That's cool. All right, 0.7 millimeter acrylic paint pen marker. This is going to look, no, let me see here. It's going to look a little out of place, maybe, because it's such a sharp little highlight amongst all this kind of softness right now, but we're going to be using quite a bit of it, so it should, in theory, kind of balance out. Now see right in here, I kind of got a little bit dark, so what I'm doing is I'm just kind of extending, going back in and extending out that white in there. You kind of condense the dots a little bit more like this in the lighter areas, and then as you go out from there, you put those dots a little bit wider apart like that, so it looks like it's kind of, I don't know, whatever, tapering. Yeah, I mean, I guess in the snowy situation too, I guess maybe that looks even better than to have just left it light, because it looks like a little bit more shimmery like snow, I guess. You know, so I made it kind of darker on purpose then. Subconsciously, I'm sure. I'm gonna put this over here. I hardly ever do that. Then it's like, I realize there's all this ink all over my hand. I mean, it's like right here on these fingers already, but let's use a little bit more kind of a, I don't know, whatever, good technique. I don't know, you might, on the semi-gloss, I think it's a little bit too wet right now. It's still a little bit moist even after all that heat setting. But you might be able to go in here with like a pastel pencil and do, you know, some different touches in here to get a little bit more of a, you know, different texture or a smoother kind of transition or something like that in there. I don't know, could work. Oh, it occurred to me now too, these little dots like this that I'm laying down, because this surface is slightly moist, it's that white dot is going to spread out a little bit. I can see it right here. I've applied some of that, and it's not as sharp of a little dot. It's because it's moist and it's spreading out in the time that it'll take that paint to dry. So I don't know, you know, it might be doing that. It might be a little bit of a smoother kind of I don't know, whatever transition into that. Now I want it a little shimmery, that I don't want it to like everything to like disappear, you know, all of my efforts down there. All right, now see these footprints are a little bit harsh in here now too, but I'm going to be manipulating these two with some white pigment ink over the top of it, okay? But let's see. Let's go in with some light blue here too. Those retreats, I always say this, the retreats for me, stamping retreats, as far as like a rubber stamping activity goes, those were always my favorite to do. Some of the retreats, you know, I was teaching it. Okay, I can't get this one working here. Or is it empty? Oh my god, this one's like empty. I can see there's no paint in here. These Artistro pens are pretty good, you know, that you can use them up until they're completely, you know, dry. And I bought my first pack of 40 pens. It was like $40. And then, I don't know, there was like, I checked it on like that Prime Days, Amazon Prime Days or something like that. And I don't know if it was under $10 or something like that. It was like I think it was under a third though. So I just bought another whole pack of them. So this is what my acrylic paint pens look like right there. I love them. All right, here's the blue. I'm going to put a little bit of shimmer into these footprints, just so they're not quite so dark everywhere. And let's do a little bit, I don't know if I need this in the moon, but let's get a little bit of texture up there maybe. About like so. And let's do some snow in the tree, okay? So it's all smudgy in there, kind of from that really wet surface. So we go in here like this in the little, you know, where the branches, I don't know, what do you call that? Like where arm branches off, you know, from whatever. You put like snow like right in here, or if there's like a tree stalk like here and a big branch coming out, you put that snow kind of like right in there. I mean, it could be a highlight or something like that too, like capturing some of that light as well. And you can do this in white too. I'll do some in white, but sometimes you can do it with a lighter tone just to see, or maybe the lighter tone could be, or the darker tone could be like a highlight on the side of the tree. In this case, facing the light like this. Like that. That doesn't look too good. It's like I'm outlining it, but I'll use the white on there too. Okay, so there's that. So they kind of pop out from the background a little bit more than they did before. Okay, and then we'll add in some of the white in there, which of course has a little bit more contrast. I forget what that figure, but it's like snow reflects. I forgot what it was, like 90% of the light or something like that. I don't know where I saw that. I think it was like it might have been a photography book or something like that. You know, where, yeah, pre-digital, you had to kind of know all these formulas for different types of lighting situations and where to like compensate, you know, because you didn't know what you were getting, you know, until you got your film back. So you had to kind of know all these different formulas to set your f-stop and speed at and stuff like that. But I think snow is like some kind of crazy amount than like just regular Earth. It was, I don't know, reflects like 20% or something like that. All right, so a little bit of highlighting on those branches like that, and Let's do that on some of these little twiggy formations down here too. You might be able to, if you know how to paint and you're good at a brush, that like brush strokes might be kind of nice on this. You get a little bit more of a nice gestural kind of mark on things, especially if you have like a really fine tip brush. I forget what those brushes are called too. Those ones that do those really fine lines. It's like a couple little hairs or something like that, and you're just going along. I think it's like the brush things that they do like pinstriping with on like cars or whatever. All right. That sled right there, he named it Rosebud. Trivia. Does everyone know? Anyone know what that's referring to? Or does everyone know, maybe? Okay, putting a few little highlights on these trees here too. Like that. Kind of bringing it out a little bit. Or trying to. By the way, this is going to go right here. And let's hit this, start hitting it with... Can I do this right now? This is still a little bit moist. You can see it up there. I think if I, and then like right there in that moon, see that moisture? If I hit that with white pigment ink, it's just going to, there's going to be like that ink in here, and it's not going to be white. All right. Sorry for all this heat setting this time. Whew, boy, that is a moist surface there. All right, let's give it a try here. Okay, so I think we should do this now before the splatter painting. Or would it matter? Sometimes when I splatter paint and I start dabbing this down, I think I start crushing some of those little splatter paint things. I mean, sometimes you have to. It's like, okay, now that I see this where the splattering goes, I need to kind of refine it a little bit with some more of this. Or sometimes when I'm doing this, maybe I'm trying to remember. Do some of them get removed too? Those little splatters? I can't remember, but I think so. Bottom line is do whichever one you want first. Hello, Jeannie. How are you? Fun with the trees. We're going back to winter here, huh? I think I'd done a snow scene in like a month or two. And it's like, we're still in winter, right? Last weekend, I did see snow in Joshua Tree. It was so cool. We got a real treat out there. Okay, so let's see here. Let's add on. Do I need to mask anything off? Okay. See that guy's head? The kid's head? It's a little bit... This moon texturing came down a little bit too close to the head, so it's like... There's not enough contrast. It looks like his head's kind of like, I don't know, whatever, exploding up into the moon. So I'm gonna mask him off right there, and let's just take care of that. Okay. So you're doing what we're doing here is we're doing a little push and pull, meaning when you add a little bit of this white value or diffusion, see that he stands out a little bit, you know, more now from that the contrast. So we're pushing the background farther away, okay? In that case, by adding that white in there. All right. Now, right here in these footprints, they're all harsh. They don't look like they're sitting in the snow to me, okay? So you can see where these areas are a little bit lighter like this, okay? Now, hopefully I've dried those off enough. I can still see it's a little bit glistening with that moisture, like right down here. I'll try to avoid it. We'll do it like this. So let's do this. Let's come into it like this. In that step like that. So now that step's kind of becoming a part of the lighting in there, okay? And then you get that little variation between these two areas too. Let's see. I guess my mask would be like opposite. It'd go like this. Okay, so you see that right there, and then we'll come up here like this. What brand of masking towelettes do you guys use? This is your ink applicator, your masking tool, you know, your whatever cloud formation templates, template material. It's like everything in one item, and they, you know, they sell it at like, you can get these at like every gas station, much less, you know, every department store. And then you can clean up your stamp. It's a stamp cleaner too. Okay, see that? Something like that. It's kind of integrating it a little bit more. I think I want even more integration, so let's try to add on a little bit more. It's covering up a pretty dark, you know, object, so I'm going to go quite a bit more than what probably looks good optically as is, but I just know this white pigment ink is going to dry and it's going to be more see-through, or it might be physically blending for all I know, because this is water-based pigment ink with that ink underneath it. Now that being said, you can use other types of pigment inks. You can use an oil-based pigment ink on here, like a, you know, a Hero Arts unicorn or something like that. And maybe it wouldn't physically mix as much. I don't know. I haven't been using things like my Color Box Frost White, you know, by ClearSnap pad. I have the Hero Arts one though. I don't think I have a re-inker for the Hero Arts one though. So anyways, I haven't been using like discontinued stuff by like a, you know, ClearSnap or something like that. Okay, so let's go in and add in a little bit of variation to our child, our knight explorer here. And he's not exploring the night, he's going home after a big sledding session. He wants to make the Olympics in the sledding. Okay, let's see here. Let's put a little bit more separation maybe between kind of land and sky here. Let's see how this looks here. Just kind of like putting that haze right in there, like that. I'm trying to decide if I want it on this side. Maybe we'll do it. This one's supposed to be a little bit closer. That one's farther back. This one's a much bigger tree, and that one's a smaller tree in the background. This one's a little bit lower than that one, okay? And plus this is like on this near, closer little hill slope. Let me see here. Okay, let's do this too. So right there, you can kind of like model that slope right there. So it's like this is like a really great snowy bluff material as well. Okay, let's see. All right, I think that is good. That really worked out really well there. It makes me wonder if I should come over here with it too. Let's do this. Let's put a little bit more of a definition right there. Right there. Find your angle. There we go. Like that. And it's a little bit too much. We'll darken it a little bit by just wiping some of it off right there. All right. I always like it in my clouds right in here where it's lighter and kind of in that light. It gives it a softer essence. Sometimes when you look at things upside down too, some other things kind of might be revealed to you, you know, that that you can do. Like right in here, it was a little bit harsh, so putting some of that down like that. Okay. I feel like so, maybe it's still a little bit dark. Let's go like that. All right, so we've added in a lot of I guess we've added sharp highlights in there with the acrylic paint pen, but let's hit this now with some splatter painting, and we'll take a look and see what that looks like. I just think it'll sometimes when you do a universal pattern over something, and usually I'm doing it by hand, you know, I'm doing you know, the Brilliance ink with the cotton ball or the acrylic paint pens and adding highlights here and there. But this one has a different spirit to it. You know, it's a different pattern. It's not so kind of deliberate. So it has a little bit of a different, I don't know, maybe gesture to it. And so it can all add up to, you know, potential kind of visual richness. I'm going to dilute this a little bit more. I never knew whether kind of doing kind of a thicker spray or a thinner one would give me more variation in the drops. I'm convinced now that a little bit of a thinner one, after one try, I don't know, like tested like tons of viscosities because I don't have like a bunch of these different bottles, but I think I got a little bit more of a variety of spray pattern. All right, so you just load up. I'm loading up a very small area on my toothbrush, and then I'm whatever, not squeegeeing, but kind of wiping out a lot of it. Okay, maybe I wiped off too much. Here, let me see. I don't want a big, huge, glob of paint on here where it's just like dripping, um, just holding it here. I want it to be like intact and in place, and that's the amount that I usually use. All right, and we'll kind of go like this, and I won't put this directly over it because when I start splattering, I don't want a big drop on here. If I drop it on like a glossy cardstock, it doesn't matter because you just wipe it off, but on this one, it might kind of soak into there a little bit, or a little bit faster. Yeah, that's a nice kind of variety. I'm getting some large splatters and small ones. And when I do this, I'm just kind of doing a few kind of hairs. I'm not going like zip, down the whole length of it. Well, I don't know. Maybe that wouldn't matter because I didn't ink up, load up the whole thing. Okay, so that is what that looks like that. And it's over everything. It's over the center section in here, kind of, and all around in these areas. See how it looks a lot richer as a surface now, I think. Having that pattern in there. This thing even looks good in like daytime scenes. You can just say it's like, pollen or something like that, unless, the recipient of her card has like really bad hay fever or something like that. I think it looks pretty good visually. All right, so we have that. It's a pretty good variation, but let's go in and add a few more. See these little, like these bigger ones in here? I think those look really good, but sometimes you don't always get it because you never know what you're going to get from that splatter a lot of times. So you can just go in and kind of manually add in some by hand. If you have like a metallic blue maybe in a gel pen or something like that, that might be kind of interesting. They have like a couple of these kind of a little bit more reflective and shimmery. It would be something that'd probably be really subtle. Maybe someone would only see it if they kind of held it to the light. But I don't know, might be kind of interesting. Or you can put maybe some like clear glitter or something like that on the snowy banks, to make it a little more shimmery. That might be kind of interesting. All right, now this really should get tacked down and everything like that before I add this in here. I don't know, maybe I'll do that. I should spray this, okay? I want to spray seal this and then mount it on something nice and flat before applying this, but just to give you the gist of what this will look like. And everything needs to be unified a little bit more with, that workable fixative, or if you have a acrylic spray, you can hit this with. That'll kind of give it a nice touch. But I'm going to put a little bit of a white border around this, and it'll have another darker one around it. So I don't know if I'm going to use that one or not, but there'll be something. It'll say something up there, up top like that. That looks a little bit heavy right now, but it'll probably be something like that. It'll be white on dark. But let me see if I have a piece of that. I don't have a piece of that blue around here. This might be kind of interesting, though. This blue metallic cardstock like that, but this is just a piece of like copy paper, but you know, it's something like this right here in terms of the color scheme. If I use that metallic out there, maybe I'd have to use that metallic right in here though, unless the metallic's a little bit too much for the scene. You know, it's like a you don't want your kind of frame to be more exciting than the piece itself, but I don't know, it's a little bit of an option there with something like this. All right, but anyway, there's a little kid going home, and he's you know, is not a worry in the world. You know, what times, huh? Let's see. Okay. Oh, me? Yeah, I'm just jumping on whenever I can. So I finished, I'm waiting for my rubber to arrive. And so I was just jumping on right now because I'm not sure when my rubber guy is going to be coming through here. So it's like, let me jump on right now and get this, you know, and I'll kind of finish my orders later, stuff like that. So yeah, I never know when I'm jumping on. But yeah, it's usually like 4-ish or something like that whenever I can jump on. I think if it's like noon, so I've been on at noon before, and not for quite some time, but like people in the UK or something like that. Or was that it? Or did they tell me to jump on at like 4 a.m., which is noon for them? I can't remember. But sometimes when I jump on, or like at midnight, you know, we might get people from like other stampers in like Belgium or something like that, you know, that are able to watch the lives. So, but I haven't been doing that lately. But I don't know, maybe we should. Marathon stamping sessions up all night. My toothbrush and my alcohol markers are related and sit in the does not work for me corner. And my alcohol markers. Now, why not your alcohol markers, Sheila? Are you talking about on your, like your semi-gloss cardstock or something like that? And what type of a toothbrush? Don't use your Oral-B, you know, for this type of application. All right, folks. Anyway, kind of a little bit more of a painterly surface down here, which I kind of like. It was kind of by accident though, because I used like, you know, I guess too much of the re-inker fluid with that sponge here. But this sponge really worked like really fast, and it gave me a lot of coverage. But there was just way too much ink in that sponge, so I need to like cut down on the amount of ink. So I guess that makes sense because when you look at this right here, it was very absorbent, but it absorbed like this much into the body of the dense foam. Where I guess when I'm doing, you know, like a paper towel, it's really absorbing throughout, you know, this whole thing. So I don't know, maybe you conserve more ink using, you know, like a sponge like this. I don't know. It seemed like it would have gone like deeper than that. It looks like it like penetrated. I don't know. It looks like it penetrated like a 32nd of an inch or something like that. But I don't know. Seems to work pretty well. I'll give it a, you know, different try. I'll try these other shapes in here too sometime. I guess. I don't know. Do I want to apply ink with like this? I guess you go like this with it. You know, like that. But still, you have the kind of the movement and the whatever ergonomics of your own hand, you know, which is like the ideal type of tool, I guess. You know, all of the other things are like, you know, when you're painting with the brushes and stuff like that, they say that, you know, these tools should be like an extension of your hand. But you know, whenever you're doing that, whatever that means. But when you go like this, it's almost like it's as close to, you know, being a part of your finger or whatever as anything. So we'll give that a try sometime and go through these, whatever, different very readily available tools. So yeah. All right, folks, I'm going to get this one finished off and spray sealed and mounted and everything like that. And I want to see what it looks like that. Also, I'll assess that word stamp there too. I'll probably just use it because it's been sitting around on my desk for like months now. When I had that as a choice for another piece, and it's like, oh, there's that knight again, you know. So I want to get rid of it. Hello, Josh. You didn't miss a thing. You missed a lot of heat gun action there, you know, which was the thing that I was trying to avoid by pre-stamping the imagery out before going in and coloring in. So, yeah. We'll see you on the next one. All right, good night, everyone.